Hello everybody and welcome to the fourth and final video where we're going to be finishing creating our base minigame engine. Now, last video was a really tough one, and honestly it can be a little bit tough to teach that sometimes. It was so logic filled and so difficult to kind of manage the flow of the situation. But if you're here on this video, then chances are you made it through last episode, which is awesome. And so the good news is today is a lot more relaxing. We're simply going to do a command and a listener. Now, that shouldn't be a problem because we've been doing those pretty much since the start of the course. Now, obviously, yes, it's going to be a little bit more advanced, but really nothing too crazy, so don't worry about this video too much. And of course, towards the end of this video, the really exciting part is that we're going to be able to fire this up and test it. Now, by means of full disclosure, I will just say, I would never, ever write a project this size without testing it. At least a couple different points throughout this. I mean, this is a project that takes several hours and a hell of a lot of lines of code to write. Chances are when you write something this big, there will be several bugs in it, probably maybe even 5 to 10 different bugs, because you've just winged it, you know. Now, as it happens, I haven't winged this, I've planned it out, and so I've just been going through my plan so that I can best communicate it to you, but I don't want you to think that people typically just wing a project of this size. I mean, people do wing it, but what I mean is wing it successfully. That's a different story. That's really difficult to do. So just put it into perspective. You've done a great job so far. So now let's just get the job done with our command and our listener. So we'll start with the command. Now, the command, as we said at the very start of this section, was just going to be an arena command. And this is essentially how you just dictate your experience on the server. Do you want to join an arena? Do you want to list all of the available arenas? Do you want to leave an arena? And of course, we just need to respond to these and then do certain things based on what they want to do and based on the states that our arenas are in. Now, we're just going to register a command as we always do. So we'll make this a command executor, hover over, implement members. It almost feels a bit mundane registering these commands at this point in the course. But you're never too advanced to register commands, unfortunately. So we've registered that, and then we're going to go ahead and just do get command. We'll zoom in a little bit. Get command arena, not null, set executor equal to new arena command. All right, perfect. So we'll do this, and then what we'll do is firstly rule out anybody who's not a player. So we'll rule out the console and the command blocks because those guys are not going to be able to play our mini games. So if sender is not a player, then return false. Okay, import the org.bucket.player, org.bucket.entity.player. All right, so let's write a little note. The way I want this command to work is going to be /arena, and then you can either do /arena list, quit, or join. Now, obviously, join is going to require an argument on the last one, so we could do join and then arena ID. But obviously, list and quit won't require that argument. So because we have such complex requirements here in terms of the arguments, for me what's shouting out is a when statement. So we'll do when, and then very simply open it up like a body with curly braces. So we can make this look super tidy. So let's write the 3 different scenarios that we have based on our args that we want to receive. Now I'm just going to remove this question mark here because the args will never be null. The compiler thinks it can be, but the API will never give us null args. So we can remove the question mark, which will save us a bit of hassle as we write this. So we'll do the first one as list. So when args.size is equal to 1, so the first argument is arg0, the size is 1. So we're going to do and arg0.equals list. And then the second parameter here is going to be true for ignore case. So the player can put in list or anything like this, anything crazy, but it will ignore the case. And then we'll open this up as a body. So that's the first scenario, is going to be /arena list. Okay, let's think of the second scenario. We could do args.size equals 1 and arg0.equals, let's say quit. And we'll do ignore case true. Open that up just like that. And then the third and final scenario is going to be to join an arena. Now this has slightly more complex requirements. We're going to need 2 arguments here. So the first argument is of course going to be join, and the second argument will be the arena ID. So we'll do args.size is equal to 2 and arg0.equals join, and then true, and then we'll pass the second argument inside of this block of code. So if the player hasn't satisfied any of these requirements, then we're just going to send them a message and we'll just say else. We'll say sender.sendMessage. We'll say component.text. If we import it, component.text, make sure it's the adventure one. we'll just say invalid usage. Please use /arena list quit join and then ID to signal that the ID is not required, but it may be used in one of the subcommands. And then you know what it is, while we're here, let's just round it off and we'll very simply do return false, just to make sure we can now compile this. So all we have to do now for this command is to populate these three scenarios. So let's just get started at the top. So when somebody runs /arena list, what do we want to do? Well, we want to send them a list of the arenas. So quite simply, we'll do send message, and I'll do component.text, and I'll say available arenas, and we'll do a colon to suggest that there's going to be more messages coming. And all we're going to do for this is arena manager. So we're referencing the list of arenas that we have. So this is all of the available arenas that are currently on the server as defined by the config.yml. And then we're going to do .forEach. And then for each of these, we're going to do sender.sendMessage. And we'll do like a little bullet point type thing, just like that. And we'll say firstly, the ID, so the actual, so this will be 0 and 1 in our case, although it may be different in yours. Depends if you switched it up. And then we'll say the state. So why don't we do just like this? And we'll do it.state, just like that. And so this will either show live recruiting or countdown. And we'll look at this when we get in game as well. That'll be really cool to see that update. Okay, so I'm satisfied that that's going to list all of the available arenas. So now let's tackle when somebody quits an arena. This is slightly less complex than when somebody joins, so we'll save the worst till last. So when somebody quits an arena, what do we want to do? So firstly, we need to check, are they in an arena? Because they can't quit one they're not in. And my prediction is we're going to do a lot of checking if a player is in an arena, because we're going to need to check it in the quit, the join, and probably also the event listener that we're about to create. In which case, I'm going to add a little function inside of Arena Manager. So I'll just do this, and I'll just do function, and I'll call it find. And we're going to take the player variable, and then we're going to return an arena, which could be null. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, this is only going to be a one-line function, but it's going to be code that you really would not like to be copy and pasting around with you if you can avoid it. So what we'll do is we will return arenas dot first or null. So this is going to loop through all of the arenas as we have above, and if any of them match the Boolean condition which we have inside of here, then it will return that, and only one of them because it's first. If none of them match it, then it will return null, which is perfect for us. So we can just check the Boolean condition as it.players.contains player, and that's perfect. So now we can very simply just write, so where were we, arena command, we can very simply write val arena, and we'll do equals arena manager dot find by the sender. And what we can easily now do is if arena is equal to null, then we'll send them a message saying, don't be silly, you're not in an arena, how can you quit one? So that's a really nice way of just reducing the code. And to be honest with you, I know that we're going to use this quite a few times, so it's really all about finding ways to do that just to make the code a bit more readable. So we found the arena by the sender, and if the arena is null, then of course they don't have an arena, so they can't quit an arena that they're not in. So we'll do sender, the send message, and we'll just say, you're not in an arena. Okay, perfect. So now we know that by this point they are in an arena. So we'll send them a message, we'll do sender to send message, we'll say, you have left the arena. And then we'll just go ahead and run arena.remove player. So remove player, sender, and then all of that logic that we wrote last episode in the remove player functions, so we remove them from the list, teleport them to the spawn, and then also handle whether the actual game or the countdown should end based on them leaving, will all now run when they run /arena quit. Okay, perfect, good stuff. So now we get to the third and final one. It's a little bit bigger, we have a few more things to check, but I've no doubt that we can do it. So let's just have a little sit and think. So when you join an arena, what do we need to think of first? Now the good news there is we've just created a function to find if they're in an arena, didn't we? So what we can do is if arena manager.find and then sender is not equal to null, then we want to reject this. We can't allow them to join because they're already in an arena. So we'll return false, but we'll also write a little message. We'll say send message, and I realize I've just up here I've used just strings, so we'll change those to components real quick. Component.text, of course. Now It's up to you whether you use the deprecated functions or not. Throughout the entire course, I've been really trying not to, and that's because they're obviously deprecated for a reason by the paper team, and so I really want to kind of stick to that. So we're going to use the components properly, just like that. And then in here, we're going to send them a nice little message to say, you're already in an arena. Okay, perfect. So that's going to stop them joining 2 arenas at once. Now, secondly, I have on my mind, well, they've just run /arena join, and they've also provided us with another argument. So we now need to check if that argument they've provided is a valid arena. So what we're going to do is we'll create a val, we'll do val ID, and then we're going to pass the argument that they've provided to an integer. Because of course in the default config.yml, we've been using integers as the IDs. So what we'll do is val ID equals, and we'll do args1 this time, .toInt or null. Now what that means is, if ID is equal to null, and then I want to do or ID is smaller than 0, or ID is greater than or equal to arena manager dot arenas dot size, then in all of these cases, we're going to say this was an invalid ID that you've specified. So for starters, if the ID is null, then they haven't provided us an integer, because it tries to pass it to an int or null. So of course we want to stop them there. Now if it's smaller than 0, that's not a valid arena of course, or if it's greater than the amount of arenas, then that can't be a valid arena. So in all of these instances we'll do sender.sendMessage, and we'll simply just say, you specified an invalid arena ID. Alright, good stuff. So now let's have another think. What else do we want to check? Well, we know that arenas have a complex set of requirements. You know, we've got a lot of data in here, but what's the main thing that determines whether or not a player should be able to join? And that's going to be the game state. So what we'll do is just check out the game state. Now we need to actually get the arena from the ID. Now we know that the ID is valid, so we'll do val arena equals arena manager dot arenas, and then we're going to do .first. And very similar to the first or null, this is just going to return the first one, which matches the Boolean condition that we've set out in these curly braces. So we're going to get the first arena where the ID of the arena is equal to the ID that we have just here. Now the way that this works is it will throw a no such element found exception. Of course we used first or null in the other one, but this one doesn't support null, it's just first. But that's totally fine because we've already done some validation up here to know that it will be a valid arena. So all I'm going to do now is if arena, and then we'll do .state, is equal to, let's say live, then we're going to say you can't join, because we will of course allow them to join in the recruiting state or the countdown state. So if it's equal to live, we'll say sender.sendMessage, we'll do component.text. By the way, you should decorate all of these components, make them pretty, and then we'll do you can't join while the game is live. And then very simply return false. So we're in a good position now. There's the 3 main important checks out of the way. So now, very similar to up here, what do we do when they're successful in this command? Firstly, we'll send a message. We'll do component.text, and we'll say, you have joined the arena. And then secondly, we're going to run arena.addPlayer and then sender. How awesome is that? So now, once they've got through this validation, they will now be added to the arena, which is pretty cool. Alright, good stuff. That's exciting. So, by the way, if you were bored, one cool thing I would suggest you could maybe do is why don't you add some tab complete to this command. That might be a nice way to get a bit of practice after this video. I'll just remove this comment now because it's pretty clear what happens in the code. So I'm very happy with this command. This is now going to essentially allow the user to choose how much they want to participate in your games. So we're about to create the final class of the whole project, and that is going to be the listener, which deals with connecting. So that will be the join event and the quit event. So we'll just call this one connection listener. Call this whatever you'd like. I just think this is a nice name to deal with incoming connections. You could also do something maybe in the player login event if you needed to, but we'll just use the join and quit event. So I'll just register this before I forget, because I have a terrible memory. So bucket, get plugin manager, register events, create a new instance of our connection listener, and then use this to reference our instance of the main class. Perfect. So, as I said, the join event and the quit event. So, we'll handle the join event first. So, function on player join. So, when a player joins, what is it we want to happen? Well, not a whole lot, because we've just wrote that entire command where the player is allowed to choose, obviously, if they want to play in an arena or if they want to participate in your game. We're not forcing anyone. You can have multiple arenas on a server, so we're not going to force anyone. you play at your own will. So what we'll do is just teleport them to the lobby spawn. So we'll do e.player.teleport config manager.lobby spawn. All right, good stuff. And then for the quit event, and then from there they can use /arena, and then they can control whether to join your games or not. So, of course, as I said at the very start, you're never going to find me creating a map or a list which contains player variables which are not cleaned up when the player leaves. So we will go ahead and finish that now. So we'll do, on the quit event, we'll simply find if they're in any arena. So we'll do arena manager.find, and then the player, so e.player. And then what we're going to do is the question mark. So if it's not null, so if they are in an arena, then we're going to run remove player, and then e.player. Now, the remove player function is actually going to do all the logic that we set out. So it'll remove them from the player list, and it'll do all of this logic to essentially tell whether or not the game needs to be stopped. Exactly the same as if somebody run /arena quit. That's all it is. So, guys, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but we have officially finished this minigame engine. Now, in a second, we'll go ahead and fire it up. It might take a few seconds to compile because we wrote a huge project and we haven't tested any of it yet. But before we do go and test it, I do just want to give a very quick high-level overview of what's actually happening in this project. If you feel comfortable with it, skip a few minutes ahead. If you feel like you've lost a bit of knowledge somewhere throughout these 4 videos, then hang tight and hopefully I'll cover it in this next minute or so. So, really, as always, the main class, the minigame class, is controlling everything. We have a companion object in here so that we can easily access this instance from across our whole project. In the onEnable, we're saving the default config, which will make sure there's always a config.yml in the plugin folder on the server. And then from there, we're referencing config manager, and obviously we're not using any parentheses or anything. That's because it's an object. And the way that Kotlin works is, if you just put the name of the class, it will give it a kick up the backside to load these variables straight away. And then also, we're doing the same for the arena manager, except what it means in this case is it's going to initialize all of these arenas which we've created inside of our config.yml. Now, once all of those arenas are created, nothing's actually going to happen. We don't have an init block, we're not doing anything on arena creation. Essentially, we allow the players to dictate their experience, so we have the arena command. And if a player runs /arena join, and then passes all the validation and provides a valid arena, then they will be added to the add player function. They'll be added to the map, teleported to the arena, and we'll run a little check to see if there's enough players as dictated by the config to start the game. If there is, then the countdown is going to start. Now the countdown is just a regular bucket runnable, it's just a task. It's going to go for our countdown seconds until 0. When it reaches 0, while doing some nice cosmetic things in between, when it reaches 0, it's going to run the start game function. Now start game is going to change our state from countdown to live, and so to do this, it's going to end the countdown. It's going to start the actual game and register the events. Now when the game starts, we have an init block. And in here, you just put in the things that you want to happen when the game starts. As I said, this could be armor, could be teleporting them somewhere, anything special like that. We also have the points map, where every single player is added to it with the value of 0. And then we have our events inside of here. Notice how tidy the events are. If we put these events in a different listener across the plugin, it would be an absolute mess. We'd have to have like 3 more checks in here. So this is a really nice place to put the events, but obviously the most important event is if the player breaks a block, then run the add point function. And all this does is calculate their new points. If we find that they've reached the amount of points, which it is to win, which is 20, and by the way, you could make that configurable in the config.yml if you wanted to, but once we've reached those points, tell everybody and run the reset function. And very simply, if true was the parameter, which it was in that case, then kick all of the players, teleport them to the lobby spawn, and make sure nobody is now in the arena. However, if you came to the reset function from maybe the remove player logic, then it could be that the countdown is actually the one that's currently active, in which case cancel the countdown, but if the game's active, then cancel the game, and then set the state back equal to recruiting. It's just a very simple game loop, and that's all it is. The game is just cycling back and forth of different states, which is serving the player in their quest to have a fun minigame. So, guys, that's all it is. I hope that explanation's made it clear. I've got to admit, I'm a little bit nervous after doing 4 videos and not testing a single part of it. As I say, you would be crazy to do that, but I'm crazy, and apparently so are you if you're here doing this. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to Gradle, run server, and I will hopefully see you guys in a second. Alright guys, so we hit an error, and it was the most obvious error in the world, and I'm mad at myself. When we changed the name of the main class from test plugin to minigame, I didn't change it in the plugin.yml. So go ahead and make sure you do that. And then start up your server, and then we'll wait and see what happens. Alright guys, I'm here now on both my accounts. If I do /pl, you'll see we have test plugin on. So I'm a bit nervous, I must admit, but I'll go ahead and run /arena, and we'll start with list. So we have available arenas, 0 and 1, both are at the recruiting phase, which of course is as we expected. So now if I go ahead and do, let's just say, we'll do some validation. If I do arena quit, you're not in an arena. Arena join, invalid usage, please use, and then the actual correct command. Okay, so we'll use arena join, and then let's say I'm going to join an arena that won't exist, so I'll just spam my keyboard. It says you specified an invalid arena ID. So let's join one that does exist. So arena join 0. Okay, so I've been teleported to the arena, and you'll notice I've got the message, but it should still be in the recruiting phase. If I do arena list, yep, it's still in the recruiting phase. In my plugin folder, there will now be a config.yml, which has the default values which we set, which was required players is equal to 2. So now hopefully when I join arena join 0, as you can see, the countdown has now started. So X seconds until the game starts. Now, I must admit this is a bit exciting, so why don't we just do a little bit of playing around first? Well, you know what, we'll do that after the game starts. So what I'm going to do, you see we've also got the message in chat. Game will start in 15. We should get one for 10. And then if we play our cards right, we should get one for 5. Oh, no, we didn't set it for 5. And then 3, and then 2, and then 1. Okay, cool. Game has started. Your objective is to break 20 blocks in the fastest time. Good luck. So on my main account, I'll just go ahead and break 20 blocks. However, I'm conscious that it's going to take forever to break, so I'll just go in creative. 1, 2, 3. See, we're getting points in chat. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 20. There we go. Steven has won. Thank you for playing. And we both got teleported back to the lobby. How awesome is that? So for all intents and purposes, guys, our minigame has worked exactly as we intended. Now we'll just do some playing around with the logic just to prove to you guys that the engine that we've made is airtight. So for example, if I go and do arena join 0 and I join arena join 1 on my alt account, you can see we're in separate arenas. So in order for either of these games to start, we'd need another person to come join us. So if I try and join arena join 0, you're already in an arena. So I'll do arena quit, and then I'll go and join arena join 0. Okay, so how about I now quit during the countdown phase? Let's watch what happens. Arena quit, you'll see the countdown has ended, and also this person here has stayed in the arena. And that was the whole kick players logic, is because this person here on the left has expressed their interest to play the game. So just because I leave on the right, the left account should still stay in. So if I join back, you'll see the countdown resets, or if I quit, the countdown ends. Now what I'll do is I'll just go and actually join, and I'll wait 30 seconds and I'll skip until the game starts, and then we'll test actually quitting the game itself. Okay, so the game's just starting now, 0 seconds until game starts, and you'll see the game started. So if I just go ahead and do arena quit, there we go, we all got sent back to the end, and that was because the players fell below the required players to play. Of course, one account can't play by itself, and so that's why the game ended. Now, there's just one more thing I want to prove, just to prove that it's airtight. We're both going to get back inside the arena, the countdown's going to start, and then I'm just going to go ahead and kick myself on a different account. So I'll kick Steven2, and you'll see there we go, the countdown has stopped again. So what I'm trying to show is that the logic that we had in the player quit event is effectively the same as running /arena quit. So there you go, guys, that is our mini game. Now I'm really happy with that. I think that turned out really well. The fact that we wrote that for 4 episodes and didn't really have any significant error is crazy. Guys, what I've taught you is a game engine that I've been using for years. If you watch any tutorials online, they'll teach you how to write a very similar game engine. Now, personally with this, I feel like I've done lots of optimizations to make this more efficient for you, especially in Kotlin, and also to try and make it more easier to understand. I don't want to overload anybody. But I do just want to say a word of encouragement. I want to say you guys absolutely nailed it if you've got this far, and especially if you have a working minigame. That's amazing. I hope you guys will agree with me in my assessment at the start of this section, which was that these 4 videos will help you better than probably any videos on the course. Because you had the knowledge, it was just difficult to kind of put it together. And as you can see, based on the fact we have like 10 classes here, we've definitely put all of our knowledge together, which is really cool. So guys, congratulations, well done, you've absolutely nailed it. The videos following this one in this section are all going to be essentially add-ons to this base engine. Now, each of those videos is going to start from the base itself. For the same reason that I didn't want to do too complicated of a minigame, I don't want to intertwine about 15 add-ons because the code will get ridiculous, and if you want one specific add-on, you're going to have an absolute nightmare pulling out the code. And so guys, if you like the look of any of the videos in this section, say you want some of the join videos, you maybe want the kits or the teams, anything like that, then go and watch that video, but just be advised that it will be from this base engine that we've created here. Every one of the add-ons will be from the base, so you can easily pick and choose which ones you want and which ones you don't want. I'll not be offended if you don't want to watch. So as I say, congratulations guys. And of course, as always, if you need any of the source code, it's all attached alongside this video. If you need any assistance, you know where to go. Join our Discord server. I'll be more than happy to help you out with your minigame and your specific use case. And other than that, thank you so much for watching guys. Congratulations, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.